Hello everyone, I'm Colin Kinnett. Today's video is sponsored by the nice folks at Maksiwa, and they've been manufacturing woodworking machinery for over 30 years. And today they've loaned me their new pocket hole machine so that I can show you and all of the people who are interested in making a living at woodworking what this machine can do. So let's have a look. Now, when Maksiwa approached me a few months ago and asked me if I was interested in working with them in the introduction of this machine, of course, I was thrilled to do that because I have a substantial following of subscribers who are either in the business or who would like to get in the business. And they ask me questions. Sometimes I can help them, sometimes I can't. But this gives me an opportunity to show them one of the machines that might be useful for them in doing that. So let's start off by having a look under the hood. In order to build a quality machine, you need to start with quality parts. And you'll notice that there's a Bosch router here. There's another Bosch router just underneath here. In a moment when I turn it on, you'll see how these work. And the way the process works is, first of all, this router here moves up and it slides up into the wood. It makes the pocket. Then this one goes through and makes the pilot hole from the back side. So that's how the machine works. So here's the top of the machine. I have the anti-skid surface showing. You could flip it over and use the smooth side as well. This area under here is where the foot is, and there's a pneumatic foot that clamps down on your material so you get a nice perfect cut every time. And of course there's an adjustable fence in the back. And this is the main control switch. Of course, there's the main power. There is a laser. We'll show you that in a moment. And this little dial here, that sets the speed at how quickly that router bit comes up and the pilot hole goes in. So you can adjust the speed with that. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And there's the foot switch to activate the pocket and the pilot hole. Here at the back of the machine, you can see where I have my compressor hose hooked up to, and also there's a regulator there. There's also an examination door at the back if you need to get into the machine somehow. And of course, there's a dust chute at the bottom. Now there's all sorts of different materials that you could use to cut pocket holes in. Today I'm just going to do a couple of them. I'm going to try a birch, and I'm going to cut pocket holes in a plywood as well. Now the plywood is interesting. This is a cabinet grade plywood. It's oak on both sides, and because the cores on these are fairly soft, I'm going to turn this down to just below maple, and that should be fine for that. So we'll go ahead and cut that first of all, and then we'll cut the birch in a few minutes. Okay, I'm ready to cut these two pocket holes in the plywood. You'll notice the laser comes on, and if I were to mark some lines on there, I could align those to that laser. And there's those pocket holes, nice crisp holes, and you can see the holes are aligned up. The pilot holes are nicely aligned in the center. Let's go ahead and cut the birch. It's a little bit harder. So with a little bit harder wood, we're going to want to turn the dial over to, I'm going to turn it on the far side of oak here, so that means it'll be a little bit slower cut. And again, I've got nice crisp cuts and nice centered pilot holes. The fence on this machine moves back and forth pretty easily. You just undo those and move that back. And there's actually a scale on there. And I'm going to reset that so that it's right where it was on 1/2 inch. But that's pretty easy. Now I want to show you some of the tests that I did with this. Now with that adjustable fence that I just showed you, I ran some tests to see how deep the penetration of a screw in each one of these. So here's the deepest penetration, and that's 3/8, and I've marked all the back of these because I can use these as a reference later on. There's a 1/2, 5/8, and 3/4, and you can see each one of these how deep that penetration is, because I've glued that little screw in there so you can actually see the end of that. Now, why that's important is it depends on the material that you're using. Sometimes you might want a very deep penetration of the screw. Depending on the material you're using, you might want to get that really deep, and you can see that one actually penetrates the wood. So you wouldn't want to use a 3/8 when you're using 3/4 inch, but you might want to use it for something else. And you can see what that looks like then. And each one of these, when you set them on end, you can see how deep that screw penetrates, and they're all marked on the back, so it's a really good reference. Now, the other thing that I tested was the angle of the screws. So there's another test that I made. And in this case, I used a manual pocket hole machine that I have. And of course, you just use a corded drill. There's dozens of them on the market. This is just one that I happen to have. And this one here is the Maksiwa pocket hole. Now, when you look at them, you say, oh, well, they're both the same. But here's where it makes a difference. Watch when I turn this around like this. Look at the difference. Look at the angle that those screws are at. Now I'm going to turn that back so you can see which one's which. So the one that's at the extreme angle is my pretty popular manual cordless drill version. Now where that becomes important is when you put wood. Look at when you're drilling that into wood, and you've got a piece of wood there. Look at the angle that that's drilling into. And of course, you can see the Maksiwa goes almost directly straight in. There's a little bit, I think it's a 4-degree angle on that one. But the other one, I don't even know what this other angle of the other one is. But if the screw is too long, of course, it's going to come out the side. And even if it doesn't come out the side, it's very weak on that side of the wood. Now these are a little bit longer screws because with the short screws you can't see the difference as much, but look at the angle of that. So that's the other thing that you're getting with this Maksiwa is a very, very straight penetration of that screw into the wood. Well, that concludes my video for today. And I know not everybody watching is interested in getting into commercial woodworking, but I'll bet you know somebody who is or would like to be. And now that you know the process of how this works and some of the things that I showed you here, that you'll be able to apply to your own woodworking and maybe your own pocket hole technology. And don't forget, there's going to be a full article on Woodwork Web, and I'll have links to Maksiwa both in the article and in the description box below. As usual, I'm Colin Kinnett for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.